Zone 3 Podcast. I am Robert.
Yes, and I am Reggie.
And you are Doug Boyd.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Doug.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Awesome. You're a local guy, right? Here from Arizona?
Yes, I am.
Obviously, we are too. So you're on the west side.
On the west side.
I think you're supposed to say that with the two hands up. Yeah, thank you. Well, we're going to get into it for a bit, but first introduce yourself, your background, kids, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, let's know about you.
Yeah, my name is Doug Boyd. Been in the MRI industry for 30 plus years. Started in the Reagan era.
Oh, nice.
So you guys can see the white hair, right? So I've been around for a while. Started my career over at St. Joe's. Was over there for a long time. Learned a ton. Kind of launched my career.
Right.
And I got an opportunity to go over to the Veterans Administration Hospital here in Phoenix, which my best 15 years of my life.
Oh, awesome.
I worked a lot with researchers and development and great technologists from all over the valley. I was able to build my own team, which was awesome. So taking the time to find those perfect people for the VA. The veterans deserve it.
So you were in a position of leadership there?
Yeah, I was the chief technologist over there, the chief MR tech over there.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, how many magnets do you have there? Just curious.
We started off with one, and then when I left, we had a 1.5, a 3T for clinical, and then we had a mobile for a while. Got rid of the mobile, got the mobile back,
Right.
and then we looked at a PET MR, which was probably one of my greatest moments over there.
Oh, nice.
So that
you guys
was
doing PET MR over there?
yes.
Very
Wow.
cool. I didn't
Yes,
know that.
yeah.
That's
So
great.
we were the only VA in the entire system that had a PET MR.
You played a
Wow.
big part in that. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Yeah,
awesome, man.
that is
It was
awesome.
awesome. It was just the having that, we got the PET MR,
Right.
so it was cool. But we did not only clinical, but we did a lot of research. Finding out when we started doing the PET MR, we were the only hospital that was doing 50% clinical with it.
I see.
So patients with PTSD, different kind of cancers, TBI imaging. We did a lot of
This
TBI
was the
imaging.
research you guys did?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and
They were
then
volunteer subjects?
yes, for the start, but mostly it turned more into clinical. So we were bringing in more of the patients with TBI, and we worked TBI pretty hard. So I probably, in the year and a half before I retired, we probably did a couple hundred patients.
So I imagine TBI and PTSD is pretty prevalent when you're working
Yes.
at the VA, right?
Yes.
That's awesome, man. I understand you're quite the golfer, too.
I'm okay.
You're a humble man.
Yes. Try to be.
Well, first of all, what's your handicap?
I'm a 2.
That means he's really good, Reggie.
Wow. I'm
On a good day. On a good on a good day. On a good day.
Wow.
But
My best was I was an 8 handicap, which I thought was
you're
decent.
shooting,
That was my
high
best.
70s.
That was
That's
years
awesome.
ago. That was years ago.
He does play
Past my
without
prime.
shoes on.
Yeah, I golf with no shoes.
I hear that works.
Really?
I hear that really works.
Yeah.
So I have not tried it, but
Well, it's effective against the competition, I'll tell you that.
Could you
As
imagine
soon as
how
he
good I
pulled them
would be?
shoes off, I mean, bro,
kill the competition.
Stay away from where the wind is blowing.
I
That's all
shower
can tell you,
regularly.
yeah?
I shower. So, do you have any kids?
Yes, I do. I have 2 wonderful children. I have a 25-year-old daughter.
And one really horrible one, right?
Yeah, right. No, they're.
Oh.
I am blessed to have the best children in the world.
Oh, nice.
My daughter is phenomenal. She gave me a lot of gray hair between the ages of 14 and 18.
That's what I hear.
Oh,
Is she in college now?
actually, no. She's she does delivery.
Oh,
So yeah. So
And then
and
you have
then
a son as well?
yes, he's 21. He just turned 21,
nice.
and we went and saw the body lifting competition.
That's where you look familiar. I was there.
Yes.
Yeah, I was competing that day.
So he experienced Vegas, because it was in Las Vegas. So he kind of got the whiff of what things go on in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
All right.
So
Don't tell your mom.
exactly. Exactly.
That's
So,
awesome.
Did
But
you
no.
guys do any gambling?
oh, of course,
Right.
of course.
Did you
got
win?
to,
Did
right?
he win?
He did. He won a couple times.
Oh.
So he got to experience that. Oh my gosh, I could win some money.
'Cause they say it's
some
actually
money.
good when they lose the first time,
Right.
so they don't get the bug.
I think he has the bug.
I think you might.
Eh,
I think he
What'd
does.
you
My
guys
daughter does. When I took her to Vegas, she loves
she
it.
loves it.
Yeah.
There's a reoccurring theme here.
It is. It's the Boyd family tradition. When they turn 21, they go to Vegas.
I need to join the Boyd family.
Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Actually, we're covering a topic today. It's a lot of questions out there. I see a lot of techs struggle with this imaging of the shoulder.
Yeah.
Just imaging of the shoulder in general can be difficult, but you found a way, a new method. They call it the clock face method. And when we first talked on the phone, I had never heard of it before. So maybe just kind of give the history of it, why and how it became implemented. And
Sure. So again, when I started doing shoulders, when I first got into MR, it was one of those, I didn't feel comfortable just with the angles and people's anatomy different. And,
Right.
especially if someone had any pathology. My struggle was the ones that the patients with the dislocated shoulders,
Ooh.
because everything was just kind of didn't look right.
Right. Right.
So, interesting enough, we did the standard shoulders for years when I was at the VA. And then all of a sudden, one of the MSK docs came in and said, hey, I went to a conference and I learned about this clock face method. And we're like, what? What's clock face method, right?
Right.
And, it intrigued me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because anything new intrigues me.
Right.
So,
It's got a
and
catchy name.
yeah. And I'm like, clock face. And he's like, yeah. He goes,
That Rowley method, right?
Exactly. Right.
the Rolly method.
You heard it first here, folks.
Sorry. That was good. So yeah, he's like,
Well, that's usually how it works. They go to a conference, right? And they come back.
with
Yeah.
all these new things.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was one year that I had to change 127 protocols because of a conference. Was not happy.
Right.
Well, so prior to this, was it just a routine shoulder? And
Yes.
just for an example, what sequences were on your routine shoulder protocol?
We did all three planes, PD fat sat. We did an intermediate. He called it an intermediate PD fat sat, where the TR was between 3,000, 3,500, sometimes 4,000. And the difference is he liked that medium, upper, higher TE value, so between 51 and 60.
Sure.
And I remember he was a stickler on this. If we had to adjust our protocols, because he's like, I want a 53 TE.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Like he knew exactly
And
what
if it was
TE he
52 or
wanted.
54, no.
Oh, that's
I want a
funny.
53 TE. So, we're sitting there adjusting the TRs and the echo trains trying to get that 53.
Right.
But it's all good. But yeah, he started talking about this clock face, and some of my texts were like, the eyes are like wide open, like what? But it's described as the glenoid fossa as the face of the clock. So
We'll probably pop up that picture now so people kind of get a visual. Okay, so that's off a sagittal view, it looks like.
correct. Oh, and I'm sorry. And then we did three T1s in 3 planes, sagittal,
Okay.
axial, and coronal, and that was our protocol.
Nice.
And I don't mean to jump ahead of you. So like when you switch from your routine shoulder protocol into this clock face, is it the same sequences just in different angles?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Oh, I see. So the yellow is representing the coronal, and then the axial is represented by that blue number
Correct.
at the 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
Correct.
Nice.
And the methodology behind this, I was excited, just because how he was explaining it and how you can see the start of the tear to the end of the tear.
Right.
Where routine shoulders, we weren't able to do that. We just saw bits and pieces. So with these angles, I mean, if you got the angles correctly, you can see the entire tear.
Right.
And getting to patients that have smaller tears or fraying of the tendon or not an absolute slap tear, some of these patients can go and just have physical therapy. Well, instead of that, they're going right to surgery. Okay.
For sure.
So with the clock method, we were able to show the entire tear. So when the patients did go to surgery,
Right.
the readings were correct.
How many millimeter slices are these?
Threes.
Threes, right? Well, I know one huge thing when it comes to communicating with the radiologist is understanding what they're asking for, right? And
Correct.
being able to adjust accordingly. And I bet the clock face method really helps them dial in exactly. Like if they did want to adjust that 12 o'clock and be like, hey, let's hit it a little bit between 12 and 1 for your coronal. You know, they could kind of adjust
Correct.
it like that if they needed to, right?
Yes.
So you make sure that 12 goes to the supraspinatus muscle?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Nice.
Correct.
And
It's
okay.
important that you get the coracoid. The coracoid process is huge.
Okay.
You want to make sure especially when you do your localizers.
Right.
Localizers is the key to this whole thing.
Start.
When you do the localizers, you want to make sure you go through the coracoid process. That way you get that whole entire circumference of the glenoid. So you can actually almost envision just putting a clock in there.
Nice.
So you use this sequence to prescribe the rest?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So sagittal is the key.
Right.
So
Part
you
one.
would start with that?
Start
then?
with
Yes.
that
Start with the
one.
sagittal, which is very odd.
Counterintuitive.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I've never started off with the sagittal image.
Right.
And he's like, you're starting on the sagittal image. And I'm like, what?
Right. This ain't a
How-
brain.
how is
Hold
that
on.
just-
right.
And getting all the other techs, that were on the team on board with that was pretty difficult
right.
because, you do things for so long, you get in a routine, and then you throw them a curveball and they're like, huh?
Right.
So,
No, I plan off my axials.
right.
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 People who don't like change.
Not
that's
anymore.
For sure.
No. So, yeah. So once you get the sagittal and everything gets dialed in, the next important picture is the coronal. So actually, it's almost kind of going backwards.
Do we have that picture?
Right. Yeah, so this one?
No. Sorry, I just
I
have
think
the
it's just
sagittal.
those two pictures. that
Yeah,
you
I just
gave
have the
us.
sagittal.
Okay, no worry.
Do you have any one of those?
Actually. So there is. So this is from the Siemens website, and they got a really good explanation of the clock face method.
Right.
And they're the only that I know of that has introduced and really supported the clock face method is the Siemens, and they got a great tutorial on the clock face method.
Doing external rotation.
Yes, exactly. And positioning again is key.
It's super key, huh? Because even on the axial, they still have it dialed in so that the clock is still correct.
Correct.
Which is interesting.
And so it looks like, the sagittals aren't parallel with the humeral shaft. I mean, close. But it's more off the glenoid fossa thing.
It is
Meniscus,
more off the
right?
glenoid fossa.
Right.
So, all right. So then, like, as far as pathology seen, you mentioned tears and stuff.
Interesting.
Like
I'm glad you brought that up.
Right.
Someone with Hill-Sachs lesion or dislocation, this clock face method gets very interesting because
Really?
everything, especially the glenoid, because it's not where it's supposed to be.
Right.
So you really have to start thinking outside the box, especially for Hill-Sachs, because you can make that Hill-Sachs look worse than it is, or you can actually cover the Hill-Sachs lesion. So depending on how much you angle.
So you could kind of elongate that.
Absolutely.
I see.
Yes. And we actually did a study where we did that at the VA
Oh, really?
because the angle was off.
Dang.
So
Dang. That's a great point. They go on the surgeon and they're like, "Oh, this is it."
Right.
Right.
and
Right.
before we started doing clock face, the patients would go down to surgery and the orthopedics would come up just mad.
They're almost winging it, huh?
Where's the tears? Where's this? It looks great. We gone in there. What the impressions are not matching up.
Oh, that's
With
interesting.
what's going on.
Right.
And when we started the clock face method, and this is the percentage that I heard, is the impressions were on point by 90%.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
90%.
Ah. Oh, I
So
know
when the
orthopedic
surgeons went in
like
there,
that.
it was there.
Right.
And you know how they always say happy life, happy wife,
Yep.
happy MR, happy surgeon, or happy
Yeah,
doctor, or something like that.
Exactly.
So it made our lives much easier. But the training was vigorous, trying to get everybody on board, especially with the angles.
Right.
But we found, just because we had Siemens equipment, it was nice. It was easy because when we went from the sagittal to the coronal to the axial, we would just use that 90-degree flip.
Oh.
So we didn't have to think because everything was 90 degrees. Obviously, a lot of people don't have that option, so it's a little bit. So that clock method is really important. But
for sure,
one of my great techs over at the VA that I worked with, he's the one that actually found that out. Yes, James. Yes, he's like, "What does this do?" And we're like, "Oh, that's such a game changer."
Oh, that's awesome. Right.
So, and it took a lot of the stress off the techs too.
Right. And that's just like going perpendicular to the image that you have up, type of when you're planning.
Yes.
Type of thing. Okay.
And then it just flips.
And it just flips it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
so cool.
Right.
So immediately loved by the ortho surgeons. With the radiologists, was it the full group that liked it, or was it just the one that went to the conference? Or they're used to seeing it a certain way as well.
Yes.
And maybe they didn't go to the conference, but the other guy did.
There was a struggle with that
Right.
in the beginning, just because they weren't used to looking at that axial at that angle.
Right.
So there was some uncomfortableness, but working, the radiologist that we had working with the other one, because we only had 2 MSK doctors, and the other one pretty much got on board with it. So especially after they found out how
successful this was for the neurosurgeons, right? Referrals was no problem at that point, right? Well, and the biggest thing too is read times, and one thing that helps with read time is reproducibility.
Yes.
If they're getting that same angle every time, they're going to be able to read so much faster, right?
Yes.
And even especially when these patients are coming back post-surgery and things like that, they can still look at the pre-post and know that they're going to get the same angle no matter who's the tech that's scanning it. And that's big.
Well, let's talk about those angles. I'm your tech. We're going to role play, you and I.
Okay.
I'll call patient.
Stop moving.
You have what kind of metal?
Right.
So tell me, let's prescribe the first sequence off the load. What would I do? What am I looking for? What am I wanting to avoid?
So
how does it differ from what I'm used to?
So going off the localizers, like I said, the axial, start off with the axial loc. You want to make sure that the sagittal, so when you do the 3-plane loc, to include the coracoid process in the sagittal plane. And it's essential, especially with the
That's
the
the one
orientation.
That goes anterior, right?
Which one?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The coracoid. Yeah.
Correct. So you want to make
Beak-like.
sure. So, I always tell my, when we're doing the trainings and everything, add a couple extra slices. It's worth, or,
right.
those extra couple slices are going to be 4 seconds?
Right.
So I'd rather you do that than do the localizer and have to repeat it. And that's fine too. I can't tell you how many times I've had to repeat my localizers.
Right.
And, especially when I first started with this, I think there was one case that I did 17 localizers to get that coracoid.
Just to get it right.
Yes,
right?
then the glenoid.
Right.
So I think I have the record. Yes, 17. 17's the record. So.
High score.
Yes.
That's funny.
So that's the first sequence, and then we're moving on to the next. We want to kind of break this down step by step.
Sure.
So for those who are watching, they can take this to the facility and hopefully adopt it.
Absolutely. So yeah, once you get your 3-plane localizers, and you go off the coracoid, you're going to go ahead and set up for the sagittal. Okay. And again, it's once you have the sagittal set, I usually like to do a T1. Just because you can see the muscle and the bone a little bit better versus like a fat sat, because everything kind of looks all the same.
Right.
So, and then back in the day and still today, I will either use my cross reference slices.
Oh yeah.
Or those crayon pencil things.
Yeah.
And just mark the screen.
Right.
Kind of where I need to go.
Right.
As soon as I envision that clock method, then I can start envisioning setting up the coronal and the axial.
Right.
The axial is the key, obviously. So, and that's what we do last. So, localizers first. Again, take your time, add slices. Don't be like me and do 17 localizers, but if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Right.
And then
Well, I was going to say, because I train a lot of people, and shoulders are something a lot of techs struggle with, vet techs, new techs. And it's something that I've always said, running a third loc. So you do the one plane loc first, which is the axial. Then
Correct.
it's usually a 3-plane loc. But if you run a third loc, which is another 3-plane loc, in the angles that you would use to prescribe those planes, then the box is an oblique. The field of view box is an oblique.
Correct.
And it makes more sense. So running a third loc goes a long way with ortho work.
It does. I do it. I not only in shoulders. I mean,
Same.
wrists, elbows. Elbows is a huge one for me. I mean, I think I have the most on the elbows too. I think.
But a tech will look at it and say, well, but there's only 2 locs. I'm like, well, you can add another.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that 30-second, whatever it is, loc will actually, believe it or not, save you time, because
It does. I completely agree.
It helps with problem solving and optimal angles and whatnot. So, okay, so prescribing the coronal, I see how it's set off the sagittal there, but how would you set it up off of a axial? Is it still the same with the supraspinatus?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is
So from setting up the coronal, we're going to go ahead and use the 12 and 6. Okay. And then once you have your slices going with the 12 and 6, then you're going to go back off of the sagittal and make sure everything is going with the
Pretty much perpendicular.
perpendicular, correct.
Nice. And that's when you could probably right click and hit that little
Yes.
perpendicular.
It spins it automatically for you.
So to me, if I'm being honest, this seems like a super easy
like-
thing to adopt.
right.
So I'm confused why others were maybe struggling with that initially.
Or just why this hasn't been adopted more on a large scale of things, right?
Yeah.
Why the learning curve?
Really, I think the learning curve was, and it always comes down to this, being an instructor as well as a PD.
Right.
It's the anatomy. It comes down to the anatomy.
Right.
If people are just not feeling comfortable with anatomy, and that comes with the shoulder because there's so many tendons and ligaments and cartilage and stuff that you got to keep an eye on.
For sure.
It just makes them feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience, and that's a big thing that I do. With newer students is, physics is great. Obviously, it's the most important thing. But so is anatomy.
Right.
Because if you don't know your anatomy,
The hill is so much steeper.
yes,
Right. Yeah.
yes.
It's an uphill climb already.
Absolutely.
So let's not make it steeper than it has to be.
But once everybody got on board, yeah, it was
It was just like you get those first 2 sequences
Right.
done, and then it's like
Right.
pretty much everything's set up.
And I'm really surprised, Robert, like what you're saying. How come this has not been adopted more?
Yeah.
It's been around
interesting.
for, we're going on since 2018
Right.
when we first got introduced to this. So we're over 5 years.
Well, I think it's just you don't know what you don't know. Like when you and I first talked, I never heard it before, and so I think if you see this more at these like big conferences like RSNA,
Zone
and
3 podcast.
Zone
you know,
3
Yes.
podcast
things like
episodes,
that.
yes, we cover it.
Shameless plug there.
And we actually do get radiologists who watch this as well. And so if there's any MSK rads, ask your techs to give this a try and see what the images look like side by side, right? And so
Yes.
you can compare the two.
Correct.
Right. Especially a pre-op patient. All right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then once you've done that, maybe ask these ortho surgeons what their preference is. I think we already know the answer, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing too to add on with when patients come in, I know when we first started doing these, when the patients would come in with really bad dislocs,
Right.
it does get trickier because the glenoid actually will drop. If they have an AC separation, things kind of drop and don't look
For sure.
normal.
And that
I guess
affects
it
the
was.
clock face, huh?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Right.
Because
And these are like acute dislocations because I
Yes.
guess from where we work, we don't see a lot of trauma. We don't work at a level 1. Or
Okay.
anything.
Right.
Is the VA a level 1?
No,
Probably is.
no.
Okay.
Patients fall
Right.
or they're, we get a lot of our elderly that are walking or they slip and,
Right.
they dislocate pretty quickly.
Whoa.
So
So they don't reduce that before they come to MR?
they try.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
So
chronic too.
It is.
You're kind of just oblique like we normally do, and there it
Yeah.
is. It's gone.
Show me that again.
It's like Look for the camera. It's gone.
Well, I have two bad shoulders. One that dislocates often, and the other one I have frozen
Really?
shoulder, like the adhesive
Wow.
capsulitis. So I would probably be like a scratch golfer if it wasn't for
You
that.
would.
Probably.
You know what? I got an idea for you, Robert. Stem cell.
Let's talk about
Oh.
that.
Stem cell equals professional golfer for Robert.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah.
All right.
Leave you in my wake, bro. So have you had experience with stem cells?
Yes, I have.
Like stem cell therapy? Was that
I-
something you've done here in the States? Or
Yeah, actually here in Scottsdale.
It's not like some German cure.
Right? You know, when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, oh, God, what is it? Another one of these things that are going to, come in, come out, and, nothing's going to work. And
I heard that it helps to prevent a lot of surgeries.
it does. Prevented mine.
Wow.
And so what did you have?
So I was in a big tournament, and the golf ball, I didn't see there was a root that was underneath the golf ball because of the grass.
Right.
And my swing speed's about 118 to 122 miles an hour.
He's flexing. I was like,
So-
I'm like 110. Okay.
And when I came down and tried to compress the ball, well, I didn't only compress the ball, but I compressed the tree root. And everything just shut down, and I felt my inside of my shoulder just come apart, just like it just boom, just, and my arm just like, I had like no feeling, weightless. It was a scary, airy feeling.
Right.
And of course, I had one hole to go, and I toughed it out. So, but afterwards, I was actually kind of worried because I just couldn't feel anything. I was in excruciating pain. Did my MRI, and I was pretty reluctant to even look at my images because I knew once you like you said, you frozen shoulder, you can feel it. Something's going on.
Right.
And when I started looking at the images, I was like, oh, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done. Went to an orthopedic surgeon. He's like, yep, you got a slap tear. Your biceps is pretty frayed. Your subscap is pretty much gone. He's like, we're looking at, at least a 2-hour surgery. And I'm like, what about golf? I was kind of in my prime at that time. And he's like, golf is, he goes, you're probably looking at minimal a year.
Right.
And I'm like, a year? I'm like, no way. There has to be something out there.
Ooh.
So, the clock face, when we started talking about clock face, is the same radiologist. He does stem cell. And I started talking to him about it. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, inflammation, deals, especially with inflammation. And then it starts to rejuvenate the ligaments and tendons. And I'm like, well, what about my case? And he's like, absolutely.
Right.
So I went and had it done. And 3 weeks later.
Do they use like your own stem cells, or do they just have generic stem cells that they can just?
Great question. So the stem cells that I had were umbilicus.
Oh, okay.
So from the umbilicus. So that's the thing about stem cells, and I think a lot of people get misrepresented on them.
Right.
Is they think they can use their own unless you're 6 weeks old.
Not gonna happen.
I would
right?
not recommend using your own stem cells because like for me, I probably have like 2 left.
Right.
Compared to you guys, you probably got a few thousand. And then babies, from the umbilicus, and there's a lot of controversy about that. But
What if it's from the umbilicus? It shouldn't be any like ethical concern.
no,
Right.
no. And I thought, when I did my first talk on it, I thought that I was gonna get like
Backlash.
people
right?
were gonna like start throwing like rocks at me.
Right.
But
What car do you drive, by the way? No,
exactly.
I'm
A yellow Datsun V210 is out there.
Well, again, I think it's just people don't know what they don't know, and so like all they've heard is what they've heard about on TV, and
yeah.
usually then it's kind of a scare tactic. And
It is.
It's dramatized for sure.
it's
And the,
both sides of the aisle have their own opinions, and
Right.
right.
it can be conflicting for sure. But it sounds like I said this isn't unethical,
Right.
right? And you were able to do it here in the States, which means it's legal. I mean,
Absolutely.
a lot of times you have to leave the States to do these sort of things. I know, like
Yes.
Mexico.
Mexico
people go
is
to.
really big with stem cell right now.
I think what's his face? I remember back in the day, Tiger Woods went to, was it Germany? It was somewhere in Europe.
Disclaimer. I'm
With
just
disclaimer. Come on now. But I mean, your own personal testimony is stuff works, right?
It did.
What was the
like a same day type of thing.
Yes.
what was the recovery time on that?
So I went in. The injection literally took 4 minutes.
And they put it right where you
Did an ultrasound, put the ultrasound over the area. They just injected 2 cc's into my shoulder. Literally took, and the doctor will ask you, if you want the numbing medicine, that's fine. I'll give a little Novocaine, but then I have to inject you twice. He says it's just easier for me to go in there and just say ouch for maybe a second, and then it's over.
Well, it calls you out like that. You got
Right?
Well, as you got the injection.
So I had to do the no Novocaine, right?
Right.
So I had it done, and I would say after 3 weeks, I was ready to go to the range. I wanted to start picking up a club. I had no pain, 0 pain, and it freaked me out. It's like, this is weird.
Right.
He's like, no, you gotta wait a few more weeks. So on my 6th week, I went out and started hitting balls.
Wow.
So
when your original prognosis was like a year out if you would have had the surgery.
Yes.
6 weeks versus a year.
6 weeks.
Wow. Without surgery.
That's
crazy.
Had some physical therapy,
Right.
just to get my strength back.
Would you place that tournament, by the way?
I took first.
In the one that we got in.
The one that I got injured, I had to grind out the last hole.
I so love that I asked you that question.
Yes. I did. I took first.
Oh,
it was awesome.
Beast mode, though. You're on a mission.
I had tears going down my eyeballs.
Hit a
Going
3-wood
down
up the fairway.
I actually did 7-iron. It was a par 5. I did 7-iron, and I think a 9-iron onto the green, and I think I
Well,
I think I 3-putted though.
Well, but
shows
that's okay. How extensive that injury was by the time you needed the stem cells, right? Like, wow, that you were able to finish the tournament on top of injuring it. So, man, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, like I said, I may have an interest in this very topic myself, and maybe one day. But I did want to ask you this because I don't think we covered it. Like, as far as imaging of the shoulder using this clock face method. We all know the dreaded A-bear view, right? And how difficult that can be for patients, especially ones with bad shoulder, which ironically, that's the purpose you're there for. But like, how does the A-bear view complement this or like, does it add much value? Is it unnecessary?
We never did the A-bear view.
Right.
So the MSK radiologist that I worked with, the one that is now the chief of Vision 18, I think. I asked her about that. I'm like, well, how come we don't do the A review? And she's like, why? If you give me a good axial, why do I need it?
Oh.
And then same thing with with the other radiologists that came out, started talking about clock face. I'm like, so what about the A review? Same thing. We don't need the A review.
Wow. An A review is and this is really the nightmare for dislocated shoulders is the A review, right?
Correct.
Right.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, you run an axial loc first.
Correct.
The sagittal is the money plane for prescribing it.
Correct.
Axial is the money plane for diagnosing it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you just want to make sure everything's orthogonal. Okay. I mean,
so it sounds like you're really helping us get the dust off our shoulders, you know what I'm saying? With this clock face
wipe
method.
his shoulders off, bro.
You know?
Right?
Yes. Well, I think this is awesome. I feel like, is there anything we haven't covered yet in terms of this topic?
Well, I know that you do have like a positioning book. Is this found inside your positioning book?
So interesting so we
What, you mean this one, Reggie?
Yeah, this one right here. This one. the best guide to MR.
Right
here.
2023 right here.
That's right.
Congratulations. You're
Thank you.
Published author now.
Thank you. Yes. What a feat. I didn't think I could ever do something like this, and I want to do one shout out to my better half, my wife. If it wasn't for her,
was she the test
supporting?
subject for all of you?
I can't tell you how many hours and hours that she laid in the scanner.
Right.
And she's claustrophobic.
Oh wow.
So she hated me for a while.
Yo, cheers.
So there was a lot of dinners and a lot of
Right. That's awesome.
So, but no, it's she's such a huge supporter, and she's in the medical field. She's actually CAT scan tech.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
So she hasn't come over to the dark side yet, huh? You haven't
No,
really talked her into it?
well, she tried it for about 2 weeks. She worked at a place and they kind of threw her in because the tech went on vacation.
Right.
So she's never done MR before.
Oh.
And they're like, "Oh, we need you to go do MR for a couple weeks while this tech goes on vacation."
Right.
And she's like, "What?"
What?
So she
Yeah.
calls me to tell me this, and I'm like, "No,
Right.
don't do it."
Sabotage. Yeah.
And she fought them all away, and finally they got some temp tech to come in.
Travelers.
I bet I can guess where that was. I'll ask you after.
Yes, yes.
Well, very cool. And I've actually, speaking of like support and all that, your wife sounds awesome. But from the reviews that I've read, it sounds like people are loving it.
Yes.
Been overdue for an update.
I've seen
It
a lot of
is.
things about it online, different Facebook groups,
Right.
LinkedIn. And so you're doing great things, man. I think this is
Thank
just
you.
Well, I want to
volume 1, right?
This is volume 1, correct?
Right. And I might be wrong on this, but I feel like there's been I was in MR school maybe, I don't even know, maybe 12 years ago at this point. And I believe we're using the same positioning book since then today,
Yes.
So it's like we needed to change because things have changed drastically in MRI,
Agree.
especially when it comes to positioning. And just things have gotten so much more intricate, I guess, with what we do in MRI for patients. We do so much more to, like MRCP, certain things that used to be all CT.
Right.
We're actually doing MR on for all the
Absolutely.
time. So
I mean, we certainly don't stay stagnant. I mean, it's an evolving industry, right?
right.
Yes.
And so the way we look at it and the way we think about things needs to evolve. So clock face method, if you guys have any questions about it, are they able to reach out to you?
Absolutely.
Do you have and we'll put your link down below, but do you want
Yeah.
to just shout out your email?
Yeah,
or
my
your
email is
website?
dlsboyd@cox.net. So
Nice.
that's D as in David, L as in Larry, S as in Sam, and then Boyd,
And then
BOYD
your
at
home
cox.net.
address as well. People knocking on
You're
your
right.
door.
I
You
want
didn't-
that clock
you didn't
face method.
You didn't answer my email.
That's right.
You got a website too, right?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
yes, I do.
perfect. That's even better.
Boydsimaging.com.
Perfect. And this is where they can also purchase the book?
Yes. So
Oh,
what I
great.
want to do today,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
I want to do today for your fans,
Oh, that's awesome.
just to give back, for the next 30 days, the code is Zone 3.
Hey,
Put that in the promo code.
in the promo.
20% off.
Oh, nice.
Now, even it gets better. For a month or a little longer, if you buy my book, at the end of the 30 days, we're going to pick out that receipt. If we pick your receipt, we're going to refund your money.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, very cool.
Yo, Doug.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Doug.
That
course.
community is definitely going to
Of course.
appreciate that, man. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Well, we ask everybody this at the end of an episode. You probably know what I'm going to ask because you watch every episode, right?
Absolutely. I love Zone 3. You guys,
Yeah.
you guys do such an amazing show.
Oh,
I love
appreciate
it.
That. No,
Love it.
thank you.
But it sounds like you've had a long career, right? You said
Yes.
about 30 years.
30 plus
Reagan
years.
Administration. So in those 30 plus years, what has been the most satisfying or fulfilling moment of your healthcare career?
Teaching.
Really nice.
Yes.
That's complicated too. It's hard, right?
It is.
Rewarding, right?
It is. It's, the last 2 years have been just awesome watching my students come into the program that, know nothing.
Right.
And then right after they get to externship, it's like just, watching them grow.
Right.
And I got the best instructors,
Man.
the best team.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
I could not ask for a better team.
Right.
And because everybody cares, everybody wants to do it.
Right.
No one that is on our team has to do it.
Right.
They want to do it. And I think that's such a big difference.
For sure.
And it's something that I do. I mean, I've been retired since 2020. I retired from the VA, and I don't have to do this,
right.
but I want to. I want to give back. I want to
appreciate
share my
that.
experiences, and that's what the whole book is about: is sharing my experiences, giving back to everybody that's getting into the field.
Right.
I feel this field has not seen what's coming,
Right.
which is really exciting.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
mean, with AI and stuff like that, that's
Oh, for
coming.
Sure.
But so getting back to the shoulder, the clock face,
Oh yeah.
we went back and forth. I mean, for a long time. Do we put it in? Do we not put it in? And since a lot of people don't understand what the clock face, I just thought it might be a little confusing. But I guarantee on the next version, the clock face is going to be in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're keeping them in suspense.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I like it.
Can't give away all my secrets at the same
Right.
all at one time. I still got a few things.
I think iPhones do that same thing. They're like, we know about we can put this in this version, but let's save it for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just apply that to the dating world somehow. Well, you're awesome, Doug.
No,
Thank you.
you guys are
sometime.
great. Anytime you want to go golfing.
Yeah, definitely.
My rate's pretty cheap for lessons.
Right.
So no, I'm kidding.
Are you a member of anywhere? Can you get me in?
You don't have to disclose that.
Anywhere you want to go, I'll take you.
Right.
I bet that. So
Expect a
and
random
then
phone call.
the lessons are on me. I'm just kidding. My wife teases me all the time. She goes, that this is what you need to do. You need to go teach golf. You need to go teach
You
golf.
love to teach.
That's great.
I love to teach.
And it sounds like you've got different passions, right? And that's the cool thing about MRI, and you mentioned it before, is that if you're in MRI, especially at the teaching level, you're already passionate about it, right?
Yes.
And that resonates with people. See what I did there?
Right.
The resonates. It's resonated for me for over 30 plus years. And I tell you, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it.
Yeah.
I've learned so much and have made relationships with, just so many people. You guys are phenomenal.
You've
Oh
made
my gosh.
relations with us now.
Yes. So
I wanted to say that.
and I'm going to do this just because you guys carry that message, and you keep carrying that message for the people that really need it.
For sure.
Thank you. It's 95% him, 5% me, but I'll take it.
Well, I think,
don't forget Katie. She plays her part
Katie,
too. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and they always
Sorry,
say that there's a tech shortage, but really what it comes down to is there's a good tech shortage more so than anything. And we appreciate you helping to put more good techs out there.
It's very important to me, not just I don't want to be putting out button pushers.
Right.
I want them to really understand what MRI, the philosophy, and really take what they learn and put it forward. I have very, very high expectations and qualities, especially when I have my students, and I expect them to do the same.
Right.
I want them to carry. I want them to keep carrying that message.
Right.
It's very important to me, especially, as you guys know, these incidents keep happening.
Yeah. Safety's huge right now, right?
In my book, I have just a separate section on MRI safety alone.
Oh, nice.
So I feel that had to be.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that helps.
No.
Katie, our MRSO, I'm sure can attest to that. It's something that shouldn't just be a paragraph, right?
Correct.
Should be in a chapter of itself. But
Yes. Well, this will help. This has lots of good examples. You guys can use this with your departments. How to build a safety committee. How to take policies and procedures and really get your staff, and not just for the whole staff in your MRI department, but the entire facility. So if you're in a hospital,
Right.
Get everybody at least level 1 trained.
Right.
That's what we did. So you have that understanding of what an MRI is. And then, for the MRI folks and the people that come into MR, it's always level 2. Same thing with my students.
Right.
My students cannot go to externship until they are level 2 certified, until they understand how to control access.
That's great, right?
So
That's half the hurdle right
I'm
there.
sure the places that they're going to for clinicals appreciate that.
they do.
For sure.
They do.
For
It
sure.
helps them eat. It's a little, they
Right.
get they're not completely comfortable, but
Which no one should
Well, it's
be,
good to be
right?
smart.
Yeah.
It's good to be
but
uncomfortable.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
It's the most confident people are the most sometimes.
yes,
They know how
agree.
dangerous,
But
yeah.
they appreciate it. They really appreciate, because they come in and they have that understanding of how important it is to control access.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well, you said again that discount code was Zone 3.
Zone 3.
It'd be a little link down below too. So
Heck yeah.
definitely check that out, guys.
I guess this is it, right? So Zone 3 podcast, Reggie.
Yes. Man, thanks to all of our subscribers, just anyone who's watching. And if you're watching and not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But, thank you for consistently coming back week after week, man. We really appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And we want to, step the MR game up.
And leave it in the comments if you've ever used the clock face method. Katie?
Great.
All righty. Doug, we appreciate you.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. It was an honor to be here today. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Say the words, Reggie.
Zone 3 podcast. We are out. Good.